Hey everyone, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell and leave a like. Comment where you're watching from. Today, I brought you an incredible romantic comedy about a billionaire CEO who was about to lose billions because he couldn't speak Arabic until a poor waitress with a secret appeared in his life. A story of love, cultural discovery, and unexpected connections that will touch your hearts. The story is starting now. Marcus Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 42nd floor of the Sterling Tech Tower, watching the bustling streets of downtown Seattle below. His reflection stared back, sharp jawline, perfectly styled dark hair, and the kind of confident posture that came from never having heard the word no in any context that mattered. At 32, he had built an empire from a college dorm room idea, and today was supposed to be his greatest triumph. Instead, he felt like he was staring into an abyss. "Run it by me one more time," Marcus said without turning around, his voice carrying the edge that made his employees walk faster in the hallways. James Chen, his chief legal counsel, and one of the few people brave enough to deliver bad news to Marcus Sterling, cleared his throat. The Al-Rashid Group has made it crystal clear. Sheikh Ahmed Al-Rashid will only finalize the acquisition agreement if the terms are discussed and agreed upon in Arabic, not English, not through translators. He wants to hear you speak the language yourself. Marcus finally turned, his steel-grey eyes narrowing. "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. We're talking about a $5 billion deal, James. $5 billion. With a B. Who cares what language we speak?" "He does." James adjusted his glasses nervously. "It's about respect, cultural understanding, trust. The Sheikh believes that if you're going to merge with his family's company, you should at least make the effort to learn his language. He sees it as a sign of commitment to the partnership." "Cultural understanding?" Marcus let out a sharp laugh. "I understand money. I understand profit margins. I understand market penetration. Those are universal languages." "Not to Sheikh Al-Rashid, apparently." James shuffled through his papers. His exact words, according to our contacts in Dubai, were, "If Mr. Sterling cannot be bothered to learn even basic conversational Arabic, then he cannot be trusted with our legacy." Marcus walked to his desk, a massive piece of mahogany that cost more than most people's cars. He picked up the merger proposal, hundreds of pages detailing how Sterling Tech's cloud computing innovations would revolutionize the Al-Rashid Group's operations across the Middle East and North Africa. It was brilliant. It was profitable. It was everything he had worked toward for the past 3 years, and it was falling apart because of a language barrier. "How long do I have?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would make him want to punch something expensive. 2 weeks. The final meeting is scheduled for December 15th. Sheikh Al-Rashid flies back to Dubai the next day, and he's made it clear this is his only window for the next 18 months. 18 months. Marcus set the proposal down harder than necessary. By then, Chen Industries will have swooped in with their offer, or worse, Technova will have developed competing technology. "This is our window, James, our only window." "I know." James looked genuinely sympathetic, which somehow made everything worse. "I've already reached out to several language schools and private tutors. Most say it would take at least 6 months to achieve conversational fluency in Arabic." 6 months? Marcus's voice rose. "I don't have 6 days to waste on conjugating verbs or whatever the hell language learning involves. There has to be someone who can work miracles. Someone who can cram enough Arabic into my brain to get through one crucial conversation." Well, James hesitated. "There is one option, but you're not going to like it." Marcus gestured impatiently. "At this point, I'm open to hiring a circus performer if they can teach me Arabic." "What is it?" "Complete immersion. Find a native speaker willing to work with you intensively. 16 hours a day, crash course style. It's risky, and there's no guarantee, but it's theoretically possible to achieve basic conversational skills in 2 weeks under extreme circumstances." "Define extreme circumstances." Living and breathing Arabic. No English except for absolute emergencies. Complete cultural immersion, and you'd need someone who understands both the language and the business context. Marcus was quiet for a moment, calculating odds and alternatives. Neither looked good. Fine, make it happen. I don't care what it costs. Find me someone who can perform this miracle, and I'll pay them whatever they want. Marcus, James said carefully, most qualified Arabic professors charge around $50 to $80 an hour for private lessons. For the kind of intensive program you're talking about, with someone who has the credentials and experience for business-level language instruction, you're looking at potentially thousands per day. Marcus almost smiled. James, if this deal goes through, I make more in one day than most people see in a lifetime. Money is not the problem here. Desperation is the problem. Find me someone desperate enough to take on an impossible task for enough money to make it worth their while. As James gathered his papers and headed for the door, Marcus returned to the window. The Seattle skyline stretched out before him, a testament to ambition and innovation. He had conquered every challenge thrown at him: hostile takeovers, market crashes, technological disruptions. But this felt different. This wasn't about outsmarting competitors or leveraging resources. This was about something completely outside his wheelhouse. Other people's culture, other people's values, other people's languages. The kinds of things that couldn't be bought or bullied or bypassed with enough determination and working capital. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. Board meeting moved to 3 p.m. Also, your mother called about Christmas dinner. She said, don't you dare send another assistant to RSVP for you. Marcus ignored both messages. Christmas was 3 weeks away, but if this deal fell through, he'd be spending the holidays figuring out how to explain to shareholders why Sterling Tech's stock price had plummeted 20% overnight. The irony wasn't lost on him. Marcus Sterling, who could negotiate million-dollar deals in his sleep, who had once convinced a roomful of skeptical investors to fund a company that existed only in his imagination, who had built an empire on his ability to communicate and persuade, was about to lose everything because he couldn't say hello in Arabic. 20 minutes later, James returned with a legal pad covered in notes and a slightly defeated expression. Good news and bad news, he announced. The good news is I've found several potential candidates. The bad news is they all turned us down. Turned us down? Marcus looked incredulous. What do you mean, turned us down? I haven't even made an offer yet. I may have mentioned the timeline and the intensity required. 3 professors hung up on me. One laughed. One asked if this was a prank call. And Dr. Sarah Mitchell from the University of Washington said, and I quote, even if you paid me $100,000, I wouldn't subject myself to 2 weeks with Marcus Sterling in full panic mode. She said that. Those were her exact words. Apparently, your reputation for being demanding precedes you. Marcus felt his jaw clench. Fine, cast a wider net. Not just professors, native speakers, graduate students, someone who needs money badly enough to put up with me in full panic mode. I'm already on it, James said, making notes. I've posted on Craigslist, university job boards, language exchange websites, offering significant compensation for intensive Arabic tutoring. Someone will bite. How significant? I started at $500 a day. Double it. Marcus, double it, James, and if that doesn't work, triple it. I don't care if I have to pay someone $1,000 a day to teach me how to say pleased to meet you in Arabic. Make it happen. Udit. After James left, Marcus tried to return to his normal routine, but concentration proved impossible. Every email about quarterly projections felt meaningless when the biggest deal in company history hung in the balance. Every meeting about product development seemed trivial when he couldn't even order coffee in the language that would determine Sterling Tech's future. By noon, he had snapped at 2 department heads, cancelled 3 calls, and seriously considered throwing his laptop out the window. His assistant, Rebecca, knocked tentatively on his door. Marcus, you have the Morrison presentation at 2 and cancel it. Cancel it. But you've been preparing for this for weeks. Cancel everything for the next 2 weeks, Rebecca. Everything. If it's not related to learning Arabic or the Al-Rashid deal, I don't want to hear about it. Rebecca stared at him. In the 4 years she had worked for Marcus Sterling, she had never seen him cancel a meeting, let alone clear his entire schedule. Marcus Sterling didn't do desperation. Marcus Sterling didn't do panic. Marcus Sterling did control, confidence, and calculated risks. This was uncharted territory. Should I order some Arabic language books? She asked hesitantly. Books won't cut it, Rebecca. I need a miracle worker. I need someone who can download fluency directly into my brain. He paused, realizing how crazy he sounded. Just hold my calls, unless James has found someone willing to take on the impossible. As Rebecca closed the door behind her, Marcus stared at the merger proposal again. $5 billion. The deal that would cement Sterling Tech as the dominant force in cloud computing across 2 continents. The deal that would prove Marcus Sterling could conquer any market, any challenge, any obstacle. Except, apparently, the challenge of learning to say thank you in a language spoken by 300 million people worldwide. His phone rang. James. Please tell me you have good news, Marcus answered without preamble. I have interesting news. I got a response to one of the job postings, someone willing to provide intensive Arabic instruction. And? She's asking a lot of questions. Wants to know exactly what you need to achieve, how intensive the schedule will be, what kind of Arabic dialect is required. She sounds thorough. She sounds perfect. When can she start? Well, that's the thing. She wants to meet with you first. Interview for the position, she says. Make sure it's a good fit. Marcus almost laughed. She wants to interview me for the privilege of earning more in 2 weeks than most people make in 6 months? That's what she said. Her name is Layla Hassan. She's available to meet this afternoon. Marcus checked his watch. After cancelling his entire schedule, he had nothing but time. Time and a growing sense that his empire might crumble because he couldn't conjugate Arabic verbs. Set it up, he said. And James? I don't care if she has 3 heads and speaks Klinku on the side. If she can teach me Arabic in 2 weeks, hire her. As he hung up the phone, Marcus Sterling allowed himself one moment of vulnerability, a brief acknowledgement that for the first time in his professional life, he was completely out of his depth. Then he straightened his tie, squared his shoulders, and prepared to meet the woman who might just save his empire, or destroy what was left of his sanity in the process. Layla Hassan wiped down the same table for the 3rd time, her movements automatic, while her mind raced through Arabic verb conjugations. The lunch rush at Bella Vista Cafe had finally died down, leaving her with a blessed 20-minute break before the afternoon coffee crowd arrived. She pulled out her phone and reread the Craigslist posting that had caught her attention during her 10-minute break between shifts. Intensive Arabic tutoring needed, flexible schedule, excellent compensation. Business conversational level required in 2 weeks. Serious inquiries only. 2 weeks. The timeline was insane, but the compensation mentioned made her heart skip. $1,000 a day. She had read it 4 times to make sure she wasn't hallucinating from exhaustion. $1,000 a day would cover her mother's medical bills for the next 3 months. It would pay off the credit card debt that kept her awake at night. It might even let her quit her 3rd job at the all-night diner and actually sleep for more than 4 hours at a stretch. Layla, Maria, the cafe manager, called from behind the counter. Your 2 o'clock called in sick. Can you cover? Layla closed her eyes briefly. The 2 o'clock server shift would run until 8, which meant she'd have to skip her evening job at the tutoring center and lose $45. But Maria had been good to her, working around her crazy schedule and never asking too many questions about why a college graduate was working 3 minimum wage jobs. Sure, no problem, Layla called back, pocketing her phone. The Arabic tutoring job interview would have to wait, except her phone rang immediately. Unknown number. Hello. This is Layla Hassan, she answered, stepping into the cafe's back hallway. Ms. Hassan, this is James Chen from Sterling Tech. We spoke earlier about the Arabic tutoring position. Layla's pulse quickened. Yes, hello. I was hoping we could schedule a meeting to discuss the details. Actually, that's why I'm calling. Mr. Sterling has had a cancellation in his schedule. Would you be available to meet this afternoon? Say, 4 o'clock? This afternoon. As in, during her surprise double shift that she'd just agreed to cover. Layla glanced toward the dining room, where Maria was already resetting tables for the afternoon crowd. $45 versus a potential $28,000 over 2 weeks. The math was simple, even if the consequences weren't. Yes, she heard herself say. 4 o'clock works perfectly. Excellent. Sterling Tech Tower, 42nd floor. Ask for Mr. Sterling's office when you arrive at reception. After hanging up, Layla stared at her phone for a full 30 seconds. Sterling Tech Tower. She knew the building. Impossible to miss the sleek glass monument to capitalism that dominated Seattle's skyline. She'd never imagined she'd have any reason to step foot inside it. Maria? She walked back to the counter, her stomach churning with guilt and anticipation in equal measure. I'm so sorry, but something urgent came up. A family emergency. I can't cover the afternoon shift. It wasn't entirely a lie. Her family's financial emergency was certainly urgent. Maria's face fell. Layla, honey, I understand family comes first, but I'm really in a bind here. Are you sure there's no way? I'm sorry. I really am. I'll make it up to you, I promise. 20 minutes later, Layla stood in her tiny studio apartment, staring at a closet full of cafe uniforms, casual clothes, and exactly one professional outfit. A navy blue blazer and skirt she'd bought for college job interviews 4 years ago. She prayed it still fit. It did, barely. The skirt was tighter than she remembered, and the blazer showed signs of its discount rack origins, but it would have to do. She couldn't afford to buy interview clothes for a job she might not even get. As she applied makeup with shaking hands, Layla caught her own eyes in the bathroom mirror, dark brown eyes that had inherited her father's intensity and her mother's warmth. Eyes that had been hiding secrets for years. The truth was, Layla Hassan was more qualified for this job than any posting deserved. She had a bachelor's degree in international business with a minor in Middle Eastern studies from the University of Washington. She was fluent in 3 dialects of Arabic, had spent 2 summers in Lebanon with her grandparents, and had originally planned to work in international relations or cross-cultural business consulting. That was before her father died in a construction accident 2 years ago, leaving behind medical bills and a mortgage her mother couldn't cover on her seamstress salary. Before her mother's diabetes worsened and the medications started costing more than their rent. Before Layla discovered that a college degree meant nothing when you needed money immediately and employers wanted 2 years of experience for entry-level positions. So she had learned to lie, not malicious lies, just omissions. She didn't mention her degree when applying for service jobs because overqualified was apparently worse than unqualified. She didn't talk about her Lebanese heritage because in post-9/11 America, Arabic names and Middle Eastern backgrounds still made some people nervous, despite her family being Christian and having immigrated decades ago. Layla Hassan, international business graduate, became Layla Hassan, hard-working waitress who picked up languages easily. But today, for the first time in 2 years, her real qualifications might actually matter. The bus ride to downtown Seattle gave her time to research Sterling Tech and its notoriously demanding CEO. Marcus Sterling, 32 years old, self-made billionaire, known for his innovative approaches to cloud computing and his distinctly non-innovative approach to work-life balance. The business articles painted him as brilliant but demanding, visionary but impatient. The gossip websites were less kind. Seattle's most eligible bachelor workaholic. Tech CEO who makes employees cry. Marcus Sterling, genius or just mean? Layla had dealt with demanding customers, unreasonable managers, and entitled college students during her brief stint as a substitute teacher. How bad could one desperate businessman be? Sterling Tech Tower was even more impressive from the inside than the outside. The lobby featured soaring ceilings, abstract art that probably cost more than Layla's annual salary, and a reception desk that looked like it belonged on a spaceship. "Layla Hassan to see Marcus Sterling," she told the impeccably dressed receptionist, trying to project more confidence than she felt. The woman's perfectly manicured fingernails clicked across her keyboard. "Mr. Sterling is expecting you. Elevator bank C, 42nd floor. Ms. Wells will meet you there." The elevator ride felt endless. Layla checked her reflection in the polished steel doors, smoothing down her hair and adjusting her blazer one final time. Through the glass walls, she could see the city spreading out below, the Space Needle, Elliott Bay, the Olympic Mountains in the distance. It was beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. Floor 42 was a study in modern minimalism, glass offices, sleek furniture, and the kind of aggressive air conditioning that suggested money was no object when it came to comfort. A young woman with perfectly styled blonde hair approached with a smile that seemed genuine. "Ms. Hassan, I'm Rebecca Wells, Mr. Sterling's assistant. Thank you for coming on such short notice." "Thank you for the opportunity," Layla replied, falling into step beside Rebecca as they walked down a corridor lined with awards and framed magazine covers featuring Marcus Sterling's face. "I should probably warn you," Rebecca said quietly. "Mr. Sterling is having a difficult week. This Arabic situation has him more stressed than I've ever seen him, which is saying something. He's not usually rude, but he's very direct, and he doesn't have much patience for small talk." "I appreciate the heads up," Layla said, though her stomach tightened another notch. They stopped in front of a door marked with a simple nameplate, "Marcus Sterling, CEO." Rebecca knocked twice and opened the door without waiting for a response. "Mr. Sterling, Ms. Hassan is here for the Arabic tutoring interview." The man behind the massive mahogany desk looked up from a stack of papers, and Layla felt her breath catch slightly. The magazine photos hadn't quite captured the intensity of Marcus Sterling in person. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and his steel-grey eyes fixed on her with laser focus. He was handsome in the sharp, expensive way that came with personal trainers and tailored suits, but there was something almost predatory about his attention. "Ms. Hassan." He stood and extended his hand across the desk. "Please, have a seat." Tall. His handshake was firm, brief, and all business. Layla settled into the chair across from his desk, acutely aware of how his eyes seemed to catalogue every detail about her appearance and demeanor. "Before we begin," Marcus said, not bothering with pleasantries, "I need you to understand the situation. This isn't a typical tutoring arrangement. I need to achieve conversational fluency in Arabic in exactly 13 days. Not basic vocabulary, not tourist phrases. Business-level conversation good enough to negotiate a $5 billion deal with a sheikh who will only speak Arabic." Layla kept her expression neutral while her mind raced. $5 billion. No wonder he was willing to pay $1,000 a day for lessons. "What dialect of Arabic does the sheikh speak?" she asked. Marcus paused, clearly not expecting the question. Lebanese, I think. Or maybe Egyptian. Does it matter?" "It matters quite a bit, actually. While modern Standard Arabic is understood across the Arab world, business conversations often incorporate colloquialisms and cultural references specific to different regions. Lebanese Arabic has distinct characteristics that—" "You know Lebanese Arabic?" Marcus interrupted, his attention sharpening even further. "I'm familiar with several dialects," Layla replied carefully. "May I ask what your current level of Arabic knowledge is?" "Zero. I know hello because our contact in Dubai taught me, and I probably pronounce it wrong." Layla blinked. "Zero. And you need business conversational fluency in less than 2 weeks." "That's correct," She stared at him for a moment, trying to determine if this was some kind of elaborate joke. "Mr. Sterling, I have to be honest with you. What you're asking for is extremely challenging. Learning Arabic is difficult under the best circumstances. The alphabet alone can take weeks to master, and the grammar structure is completely different from English, which is why I'm offering exceptional compensation," Marcus said impatiently. "Money isn't an object here, Ms. Hassan. Results are the only thing that matters. With respect, sir, money can't buy fluency. This would require complete immersion, intensive daily sessions, and even then, there's no guarantee you'd achieve the level of proficiency needed for complex business negotiations." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You're trying to talk yourself out of a job. I'm trying to set realistic expectations. If you're looking for someone to take your money and promise miracles, I'm not that person." Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Surprise, maybe, or grudging respect. "What are your qualifications, Ms. Hassan?" This was the moment she'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. The moment where she could finally tell the truth about who she really was. "I have a bachelor's degree in international business, with a minor in Middle Eastern studies from the University of Washington," she began, watching his eyebrows rise. "I'm fluent in modern standard Arabic, as well as Lebanese and Egyptian dialects. I spent 2 summers in Lebanon, working with my grandfather's import business, so I have experience with Arabic business terminology and cultural contexts." Marcus set down the pen he'd been holding. "You have a business degree and Arabic fluency, and you're working as a waitress," Layla finished, "among other things. Why?" The simple question hit harder than she'd expected. "Because my father died 2 years ago and left medical bills. Because my mother has diabetes and needs medications that cost $800 a month. Because entry-level positions requiring no experience apparently require 2 years of experience, and I needed money immediately, not eventually." The silence stretched between them. Marcus Sterling, who probably made $800 in the time it took him to drink his morning coffee, studying Layla Hassan, who counted out exact change for bus fare every morning. "Can you do it?" he asked finally. "Can you teach me enough Arabic in 13 days to have this conversation?" Layla met his gaze directly. "I don't know. But if anyone can, it would be someone who understands both the language and the business context. Someone who knows what's at stake and isn't afraid to tell you when you're being unrealistic." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the desk. "What would you need from me?" "Complete commitment. 16 hours a day if necessary. No phone calls, no meetings, no distractions. You'd have to trust my methods, even when they seem unconventional. And you'd have to accept that failure is a very real possibility. Failure isn't an option. Failure is always an option, Mr. Sterling. The question is whether you're willing to do everything possible to avoid it." Marcus stood and walked to his window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. $1,000 a day, he said without turning around. 1,500, Layla replied, surprising herself with her boldness. He turned back to her, eyebrows raised. "You're negotiating." "You need me more than I need this job," she said, which was completely untrue but sounded confident. 1,500 a day, and I'll give you my complete focus for the next 13 days. I'll create a customized curriculum, provide cultural context, and do everything in my power to get you ready for this meeting. Marcus studied her for what felt like an eternity. Then he smiled, a real smile, not the polished corporate version she'd seen in magazine photos. "Ms. Hassan," he said, "you're hired." As they shook hands again, Layla felt a mixture of excitement and terror that had nothing to do with teaching Arabic and everything to do with the man whose life she'd just agreed to turn upside down. 13 days, $19,500, one impossible deadline. What could possibly go wrong? Marcus Sterling had conquered hostile board meetings, survived 3 different market crashes, and once spent 48 hours straight coding to save a failing product launch. He considered himself unflappable under pressure. That was before he spent 10 minutes trying to pronounce marhaban, the Arabic word for hello, while Layla Hassan sat across from him with the patience of a kindergarten teacher and the determination of a drill sergeant. Marhaban, she repeated for the 15th time, her lips moving slowly and deliberately. The H is pronounced from the back of your throat, like you're clearing it gently. Marhaban, Marcus attempted, sounding like he was choking on expensive whiskey. Better, but the emphasis is on the first syllable, marhaban. Think of it as 3 distinct sounds flowing together, not 3 separate words. They were sitting in Sterling Tech's smaller conference room, which Layla had transformed into an Arabic language laboratory in the span of 2 hours. Whiteboard markers, index cards, and Arabic alphabet charts covered every available surface. She had also somehow procured a small Lebanese flag, which sat prominently on the table between them. "This is ridiculous," Marcus muttered, loosening his tie. "I've given presentations to Fortune 500 CEOs. I've negotiated billion-dollar acquisitions. I should be able to say hello in Arabic without sounding like I'm having an allergic reaction." "Language learning isn't about intelligence or business acumen," Layla replied calmly, making notes on her legal pad. "It's about muscle memory, pattern recognition, and accepting that you'll sound foolish before you sound fluent. Even you, Mr. Sterling." The "even you" carried just enough subtle challenge to make Marcus look up sharply. In the past 4 years, no one had spoken to him with anything approaching sarcasm. Board members deferred to his judgment. Employees agreed with his decisions, and women at charity galas laughed at jokes that weren't particularly funny. Layla Hassan, apparently, had missed the memo about treating Marcus Sterling like he was infallible. "Let's try something different," she continued, standing up and walking to the whiteboard. "Instead of individual words, let's work on a complete phrase, something you'll actually need to say to Sheikh al-Rashid." She wrote in Arabic script across the board, "Ana Sa'id lil-liqa'ik, Ana Sa'id lil-liqa'ik," she pronounced carefully. "I'm pleased to meet you. It's formal but respectful, exactly the tone you'll want for a business introduction." Marcus stared at the flowing Arabic characters that looked more like art than language. "How do you even know where one letter ends and another begins?" "Practice, lots and lots of practice." Layla turned back to him. "Arabic is written from right to left, and most letters connect to each other in the same word. It seems impossible until suddenly it doesn't. That's not particularly helpful. Neither is expecting to master a language in 13 days, but here we are." She capped the marker and returned to her seat. "Mr. Sterling, can I ask you something?" "Depends what it is." "When you're learning new technology or studying market trends, do you expect to understand everything immediately?" Marcus considered this. "Of course not. Complex systems require time to analyze and understand. Then why do you expect language to be different? Arabic isn't just vocabulary and grammar rules. It's an entirely different way of organizing thoughts, expressing concepts, even viewing relationships between ideas. You're asking your brain to rewire itself in less than 2 weeks." She had a point, though Marcus wasn't thrilled about admitting it. "So what do you suggest?" "Complete immersion starting now. For the next 13 days, we speak as much Arabic as possible, even when you can only manage single words. I'll introduce you to Lebanese culture, business customs, appropriate greetings, and body language. We'll watch Lebanese news, listen to Arabic music, even eat Lebanese food." Lebanese food. Language and culture are inseparable. Sheikh al-Rashid isn't just listening to your words. He's evaluating your respect for his heritage. Understanding cultural context could be just as important as proper pronunciation. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message, then another, then a series of rapid notifications that indicated his carefully organized world was demanding attention. "Ignore it," Layla said firmly. "I can't ignore it. I run a company. I have responsibilities." You have one responsibility for the next 13 days, learning Arabic. Everything else is secondary. She reached across the table and turned his phone face down. James Chen can handle whatever crisis needs handling. You hired me to do a job, Mr. Sterling. Let me do it. The simple gesture of flipping over his phone felt more dramatic than it should have. Marcus Sterling hadn't been disconnected from Sterling Tech Communications for more than 30 minutes since the company went public 3 years ago. This feels wrong, he admitted. Most worthwhile things do. Layla pulled out an index card and wrote something in Arabic. Your homework for tonight. Marcus looked at the card. Homework? I haven't had homework since Harvard Business School. Anna Marcus. Wa ana mutashawik lil amal ma'ak, she read aloud. I'm Marcus, and I'm excited to work with you. Practice saying it until you can do it smoothly, without thinking about each individual word. That's it? One sentence? That's it. Master one sentence completely, rather than butchering 20 sentences poorly. She gathered her materials. We'll meet again tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. 7 a.m? On a Saturday? Language doesn't take weekends off, and neither do we. Oh, and Mr. Sterling? She paused at the door. Dress casually tomorrow. We're going on a field trip. After she left, Marcus sat alone in the conference room, staring at the Arabic phrase on the whiteboard and the index card in his hand. The letters still looked like decorative calligraphy rather than meaningful communication. He spent the next 3 hours attempting to pronounce Ana Marcus wa Ana Mutashawik lil Amal Mak while reviewing quarterly projections, but found himself stumbling over the Arabic sounds every time his phone rang or Rebecca knocked on his door. By 8 p.m., he gave up and drove to his penthouse apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. The 32nd floor condo was a monument to minimalist luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows, imported Italian furniture, and absolutely nothing that suggested anyone actually lived there. Marcus ordered sushi from his usual restaurant, opened a bottle of wine that cost more than most people spent on groceries in a month, and tried to practice Arabic while reading merger documents. It was a disaster. The flowing Arabic sounds felt completely foreign in his mouth, and his mind kept wandering to profit margins and market analysis. By 10 p.m., he could barely remember the first word of the sentence Layla had assigned him. His phone rang. James Chen. Marcus, I know you said no interruptions, but we've got a situation with the Morrison account. They're threatening to pull out if we don't have a project manager on site in Portland by Monday morning. Marcus found himself reaching for his laptop before remembering Layla's instructions. Handle it, James. Promote someone, hire someone, clone yourself if necessary. I can't deal with this right now. Marcus, are you okay? You sound strange. Strange. Marcus Sterling never sounded strange. Marcus Sterling sounded confident, decisive, completely in control of every situation. I'm learning Arabic, James. Apparently it makes me sound strange. Right, the Arabic thing. How's it going? Marcus looked at the index card sitting on his coffee table, the Arabic script as incomprehensible as it had been 8 hours ago. It's going differently than expected. After hanging up, Marcus walked to his windows and looked out at the glittering Seattle skyline. Somewhere out there, Layla Hassan was probably in a tiny apartment, reviewing lesson plans and preparing for tomorrow's mysterious field trip. She was working just as hard as he was, probably harder, for a fraction of his usual hourly earnings. The thought bothered him more than it should have. He picked up the index card again. Ana Marcus, wa ana mutashawik lil amal mak. The sounds still felt clumsy and foreign, but something about the rhythm was beginning to make sense. Arabic wasn't like English, where words marched along in orderly single-file lines. It flowed and curved, with sounds that seemed to dance around each other. By midnight, Marcus had managed to say the sentence 3 times without completely embarrassing himself. It wasn't fluent, it wasn't perfect, but it was recognizably the phrase Layla had taught him. Progress. Small, incremental, frustrating progress. He fell asleep on his leather sofa, the Arabic index card still clutched in his hand, dreaming of board meetings conducted entirely in a language that sounded like music and felt like mathematics. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of grey Seattle drizzle that made even expensive coffee taste necessary. Marcus stood in his walk-in closet, staring at a wardrobe that consisted entirely of business suits, dress shirts and ties that cost more than most people's car payments. "Dress casually," Layla had said. Marcus Sterling owned exactly 2 casual outfits, a $500 sweater for charity golf tournaments and designer jeans he'd bought for a magazine photo shoot and never worn. He settled on dark jeans, a white button-down shirt, and a navy jacket that looked less corporate than his usual attire, but still screamed expensive. It was the best he could manage. Layla was waiting in the Sterling Tech lobby at exactly 7 a.m., dressed in jeans, sneakers, and a University of Washington sweatshirt that had definitely seen better days. She looked young, relaxed, and completely at ease, everything Marcus Sterling rarely felt anymore. "Ready for your field trip?" she asked, hefting a canvas bag over her shoulder. "Depends where we're going, and why you look like you're preparing for a hiking expedition." "We're going to Little Lebanon," she said, leading him toward the exit. "It's a neighborhood in South Seattle where my family shops. You're going to practice Arabic in real-world situations." Marcus stopped walking. Real-world situations with actual people? How else do you think languages work, Mr. Sterling? You can't learn to communicate by talking to yourself in conference rooms. "But I can barely pronounce hello without sounding like I'm having a medical emergency. Which is exactly why we're doing this now, while your mistakes don't cost $5 billion. She pushed through the revolving door, and Marcus had no choice but to follow. "We're taking the bus," she announced, pulling out a transit pass. "The bus?" Marcus looked around for his usual black town car. "Where's my driver?" "Your driver doesn't speak Arabic, and neither do most people in your usual environment. Today, you're going to discover what it's like to navigate the world without everyone automatically speaking your language." As they waited at the bus stop, Marcus realized he hadn't used public transportation since college. The whole experience felt surreal. Standing on a street corner in designer jeans, watching ordinary people go about their Saturday morning routines while he prepared to stumble through Arabic conversations with strangers. "Nervous?" Layla asked, noticing his silence. "Terrified," Marcus admitted. "This is completely outside my comfort zone." "Good," Layla smiled. "Learning happens outside comfort zones. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? You mispronounce something and people correct you. You ask for directions and someone laughs. Your empire doesn't crumble because you sounded foolish ordering coffee in Arabic." The bus arrived, and as they climbed aboard, Marcus caught a glimpse of his reflection in the window. For the first time in years, he looked like a regular person rather than a CEO. It was unsettling and oddly liberating in equal measure. "First lesson," Layla said as they found seats. "Arabs value hospitality and respect above almost everything else. If you approach people with humility and genuine effort, they'll be incredibly patient with your mistakes. And if I approach them like an impatient businessman who expects instant results, then you'll discover why 13 days isn't enough time to learn Arabic," she said with a grin that suggested she was looking forward to watching him figure that out. As the bus wound through Seattle neighborhoods Marcus had never seen before, heading toward a community where he'd be the foreigner struggling to communicate, Marcus Sterling felt something he hadn't experienced in years: genuine uncertainty about his ability to control the outcome. It was terrifying and exhilarating, and absolutely nothing like running a Fortune 500 company. In other words, exactly what he needed. The bus dropped them off on a street that looked nothing like the polished downtown Seattle Marcus knew. Small storefronts with Arabic signs stretched along both sides of the avenue. Grocery stores, restaurants, bakeries, and shops selling everything from hookahs to handmade jewelry. The air smelled of cardamom, grilled meat, and fresh bread. "Welcome to Little Lebanon," Layla announced, shouldering her canvas bag. "Population about 3,000 Lebanese Americans, plus assorted other Middle Eastern immigrants who appreciate good hummus. Marcus looked around nervously. Every shop sign included Arabic text, and he could hear conversations in Arabic drifting from doorways and sidewalk cafes. It was like stepping into a different country without leaving Seattle. Our first stop, Layla pointed to a small grocery store with Al Noor Market, painted in both Arabic and English across the window, is breakfast. You're going to order coffee and pastries in Arabic. I don't know how to order anything in Arabic. That's the point. I'll teach you the phrases, then you'll use them with real people who have real opinions about your pronunciation. She pulled out a small notebook. Coffee is kahwa. A Lebanese pastry called ma'moul is ma'moul. And you'll say min fadlik for please. That's 3 new words. Yesterday you gave me 1 sentence. Yesterday you were safe in a conference room. Today, you're going to discover that motivation increases dramatically when actual human beings are listening to you. Layla grinned. Don't worry. The owner, Mr. Khalil, is my family friend. He'll be patient. They entered the small market, which was packed with products Marcus had never seen before. Jars of preserved lemons, bags of bulgur wheat, Lebanese cookies in colorful packaging, and a display case full of Middle Eastern pastries that looked like jewelry. A man in his 60s with kind eyes and a carefully groomed grey beard looked up from behind the counter. Layla, Habibti! How are you, my dear? I'm well, Uncle Khalil. She kissed his cheeks in the traditional Arabic greeting, then gestured toward Marcus. I'd like you to meet my friend Marcus. He's learning Arabic. Mr. Khalil's face lit up with the kind of genuine warmth that Marcus rarely encountered in business settings. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome. You are learning our beautiful language? Marcus looked helplessly at Layla, who made encouraging gestures. Marhaban, Marcus managed, his pronunciation careful and stilted. Marhaban, Mr. Khalil replied enthusiastically. Very good. Your accent needs work, but your effort is excellent. Layla is a good teacher, yes? She's very demanding, Marcus said in English, earning a laugh from both Layla and Mr. Khalil. Demanding teachers make the best students, Mr. Khalil said. Now, what can I get for you today? Layla nudged Marcus forward. Remember, kawa, ma'moul, min fadlik. Marcus took a deep breath. Kawa, min fadlik? Turkish coffee or American coffee? Mr. Khalil asked in accented but clear English. Marcus looked at Layla, who whispered, Kawa Turkiya, Kawa Turkiya. Min fadlik, Marcus repeated, stumbling over the unfamiliar sounds. Excellent. And ma'moul min fadlik, Marcus said with slightly more confidence. Mr. Khalil beamed and began preparing the order, chattering in rapid Arabic to Layla while grinding coffee beans in an ornate brass grinder. Marcus caught maybe every 10th word, but the rhythm and music of the conversation was hypnotic. He says your pronunciation is terrible, but your respect is good, Layla translated. That's high praise from Uncle Khalil. As they waited for the coffee, Marcus found himself studying the store more carefully. Family photos were scattered among the products. Weddings, graduations, children's birthday parties. This wasn't just a business. It was a community hub, a piece of Lebanon transplanted to Seattle. How long has he owned this store? Marcus asked. 23 years. He came here with nothing but a suitcase and a recipe for the best ma'moul in Beirut. Now he supports 12 Lebanese families through jobs at his 3 stores. Marcus watched Mr. Khalil work, his movements practiced and efficient. Here was someone who had built something meaningful from scratch, just like Marcus had. But where Marcus had conquered markets and accumulated wealth, Mr. Khalil had created community and preserved culture. The Turkish coffee arrived in a small cup that looked like a piece of art, accompanied by 2 pastries filled with dates and nuts. Marcus had eaten at Michelin-starred restaurants around the world, but the simple breakfast smelled better than anything he could remember. Shukran, Layla prompted. Shukran, Marcus repeated, offering the word like a question. Afwan, Mr. Khalil replied with a smile. You are welcome. Practice your Arabic and come back soon. Outside the market, Marcus sipped the strong, cardamom-scented coffee and tried to process what had just happened. That was... He began, then stopped. Different than board meetings? Layla suggested. He was genuinely happy to help me, even though I butchered his language and probably insulted his coffee grinder in the process. That's Arab hospitality. You showed respect by attempting Arabic, so he responded with kindness and patience. It's not about perfection, it's about effort and mutual respect. They walked down the street past a bakery where women in hijabs were selecting elaborate cakes, past a restaurant where old men played backgammon while smoking apple-scented tobacco from ornate pipes. "This is where you grew up?" Marcus asked. "Part-time. My family lived in Bellevue, but we came here every weekend. Saturday grocery shopping, Sunday family dinners, holidays and celebrations. It's where I learned to be Lebanese-American instead of just American." Marcus tried to imagine growing up with feet in two cultures, two languages, two ways of seeing the world. His own childhood had been relentlessly singular. Elite private schools, tennis lessons, summer camps where everyone looked exactly like him and shared the same assumptions about how the world worked. "Next stop," Layla announced, stopping in front of a restaurant called Cedars of Lebanon. "Lunch. You're going to order an entire meal in Arabic." "An entire meal? I can barely order coffee." "You do, which is why we're practicing. Besides, I'm starving, and their kibbeh is the best in Seattle." The restaurant was small, family-run, with tables covered in white tablecloths and Arabic music playing softly in the background. A young woman about Layla's age approached their table with menus and a warm smile. "Layla! I haven't seen you in months," she said, in lightly accented English, then continued in rapid Arabic. Layla responded in equally rapid Arabic, gesturing toward Marcus. The young woman, her name tag read Fatima, turned to him with the same welcoming expression he'd encountered at the market. "So you are learning Arabic," Fatima said to Marcus. "This is wonderful. My brother is learning English, so we understand how difficult it is." "It's challenging," Marcus admitted. "All good things are challenging. Would you like to practice ordering with me? I will be very patient." Layla handed Marcus a menu with both Arabic and English. "Order hummus, kibbeh, and tabbouleh." Marcus studied the Arabic script, which still looked like decorative art rather than language. "Hummus min fadlik?" "Very good. And kibbeh?" "Kibbeh min fadlik," Marcus said, gaining confidence. "And?" Fatima prompted gently. "Tabbouleh min fadlik," he finished. "Excellent, your pronunciation is improving. And to drink?" Marcus looked helplessly at Layla. "Shai," she whispered. "Tea." "Shai min fadlik," Marcus said. Fatima clapped her hands together delightedly. "Perfect. You are a very good student." As she walked away to place their order, Marcus felt an unfamiliar sensation, pride in accomplishing something small but genuine. In business, his victories were usually measured in millions of dollars or market share percentages. Successfully ordering lunch in Arabic felt oddly more satisfying than closing most deals. "How do you feel?" Layla asked. "Like I might not die of embarrassment when I meet Sheikh al-Rashid," Marcus said. "Though I'm still terrified of having to discuss actual business terms in Arabic. One step at a time. Today is about building confidence and cultural understanding. Tomorrow we tackle business vocabulary." Their food arrived, a feast of Middle Eastern dishes that looked and smelled incredible. The hummus was creamy and rich, topped with olive oil and pine nuts. The kibbeh were perfectly seasoned footballs of bulgur and meat. The tabbouleh was fresh and bright with parsley and lemon. "This is amazing," Marcus said after his first bite. "I had no idea Lebanese food could be this good." "Most Americans think Middle Eastern food begins and ends with falafel," Layla said. "There's so much more. Entire culinary traditions built around hospitality and sharing meals." Marcus watched the other diners, families with multiple generations, couples sharing mezze platters, groups of friends lingering over tea and conversation. The pace was slower than his usual business lunches, more focused on the people than the food. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. Layla looked up from her tabula. "Depends how personal. Why didn't you tell me about this place when we were discussing Lebanese business customs? This seems like important cultural context." Layla was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "Because most of my employers don't want to know about this part of my life. They want me to serve coffee and take orders and remain essentially invisible. Mentioning that I have a degree or speak multiple languages or come from a rich cultural tradition makes people uncomfortable." Why would that make people uncomfortable? Because it reminds them that the person serving their coffee might be more qualified than they are. Because post 9/11, having an Arabic name and Middle Eastern heritage still makes some people suspicious. Because it's easier to think of service workers as temporary and uncomplicated. Marcus felt an uncomfortable twist in his stomach as he thought about his own assumptions. He'd been surprised by Layla's qualifications, her intelligence, her cultural knowledge. Why had he assumed that someone working as a waitress couldn't be highly educated? "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what?" "For assuming you were just a waitress looking for extra money. For not recognizing that you might have your own dreams and goals and complications." Layla smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "Most people don't see past the uniform, Mr. Sterling. You're not unique in that regard." They finished lunch in comfortable silence, with Marcus practicing Arabic phrases with Fatima each time she checked on their table. By the end of the meal, he could thank her, compliment the food, and ask for the check, all in halting but recognizable Arabic. As they prepared to leave, Fatima approached the table with a small bag. "A gift," she said to Marcus. "Lebanese sweets for practicing your Arabic. My grandmother makes them." Marcus accepted the bag with genuine gratitude. "Shukran ktir," he said, using a phrase Layla had taught him earlier. "Thank you very much." "Afwan, come back soon and practice more Arabic with us." Outside the restaurant, Marcus felt different somehow. Lighter, maybe, or more connected to something larger than himself. "Where to next?" he asked. "Home," Layla said. "You've had enough cultural immersion for one day. Besides, we need to review what you learned and prepare for tomorrow's lessons." "What's tomorrow?" "Business vocabulary and formal conversation. The fun part is over, mister." "Sterling, now we get serious." As they waited for the bus back downtown, Marcus realized that for the first time in months, he hadn't thought about stock prices, quarterly projections, or competitor analysis. He'd been completely present in each conversation, each interaction, each small victory over his own linguistic limitations. "Layla," he said as the bus approached. "Yes?" "Thank you. For today, for your patience, for showing me something I didn't know existed." She studied his face for a moment, as if trying to determine whether he was being sincere or simply polite. "You're welcome," she said finally. "But don't thank me yet. Wait until you're successfully conducting business in Arabic, then we'll celebrate." As they boarded the bus back to downtown Seattle, Marcus found himself looking forward to tomorrow's lessons with an enthusiasm that surprised him. Learning Arabic was still impossibly difficult, and the deadline was still impossibly tight. But for the first time since this whole adventure began, Marcus Sterling was beginning to understand that maybe, just maybe, the impossible might be achievable after all. By Monday morning, Marcus Sterling had spent 72 hours immersed in Arabic language and Lebanese culture, and he was beginning to dream in broken Arabic sentences that made no grammatical sense, but somehow felt emotionally accurate. He arrived at Sterling Tech at 6 a.m. to find Layla already waiting in the conference room, surrounded by what appeared to be an entire Lebanese cultural education center. Arabic business newspapers, Lebanese music playing softly from her laptop, and a spread of Middle Eastern breakfast foods that smelled better than anything his personal chef had ever prepared. "Sabah al-Khair," she said without looking up from her notes. "Good morning." "Sabah al-Noor," Marcus replied automatically. then stopped in surprise. I actually remembered that. Your brain is finally accepting that Arabic exists, Layla said with a smile. Today we graduate from social pleasantries to business terminology. Are you ready to discuss profit margins in Arabic? Marcus settled into his chair and accepted the cup of Arabic coffee she offered. Over the weekend, he'd discovered that Lebanese coffee was stronger than anything legal in most states, but it helped him focus in ways that his usual espresso never managed. "Define ready," he said. "Can you introduce yourself, ask basic questions about someone's business, and express enthusiasm for working together?" Marcus considered this. After 3 days of intensive practice, he could manage simple conversations about weather, food, and family. Business terminology felt like climbing Mount Everest when he was still learning to walk. Maybe. Good enough. Today, you're going to learn the Arabic terms for partnership, investment, technology, and mutual benefit. By tonight, you'll be able to outline the basic structure of your deal with Sheikh Al-Rashid. In Arabic. For the next 4 hours, Marcus's brain felt like it was being rewired with a combination of sophisticated software and medieval torture devices. Arabic business vocabulary was complex, formal, and often involved concepts that didn't translate directly from English. Partnership isn't just sharaka, Layla explained, writing on the whiteboard. There's sharaka tijariya for commercial partnership, sharaka istrategiya for strategic partnership, and sharaka mutabadala for mutual partnership. The Sheikh will expect you to use the precise term. How am I supposed to remember all these variations? The same way you remember the difference between acquisition, merger, and strategic alliance in English, context and practice. By lunch, Marcus could discuss cloud computing technology in basic Arabic, though his pronunciation still made Layla wince occasionally. They were making progress, but the upcoming deadline felt like a runaway train approaching at increasing speed. "Let's practice a mock conversation," Layla suggested, setting up 2 chairs facing each other. "I'll be Sheikh Al-Rashid. You be yourself. Begin with formal greetings and work your way to discussing the benefits of the partnership." Marcus straightened his tie and tried to channel the confidence that had carried him through countless business negotiations. "Assalamu alaikum," he began, offering the formal Arabic greeting. "Wa alaikum assalam," Layla replied, transforming her voice into something deeper and more authoritative. "Mr. Sterling, it is a pleasure to meet you." "The pleasure is mine, Sheikh Al-Rashid. I'm honored by your time and attention to our proposal." So far, so good. Marcus had practiced this exchange dozens of times over the weekend. "Tell me about your company's technology," Layla continued in Arabic, and that's where everything fell apart. Marcus opened his mouth to explain cloud computing infrastructure in Arabic and discovered that his brain had apparently decided to take an unscheduled vacation. The carefully memorized vocabulary scattered like startled birds, leaving him staring blankly at Layla, while Arabic words he'd known perfectly well 5 minutes ago completely disappeared. He began in English, then caught himself. Ana Sharikat, Layla prompted gently. "My company, Ana Sharikat Sterling Tech Tatakhasas Fi." Marcus struggled with the Arabic phrase for specializes in, his face flushing with frustration. "Tatakhasas Fi at Technologia Al-Sahabiyya," Layla finished, "specializes in cloud technology." Marcus slumped in his chair. "This is hopeless. I can't even explain what my own company does without stumbling over every other word." "You've been learning Arabic for 3 days," Layla pointed out. "Most people take years to achieve business-level fluency. Most people aren't risking a $5 billion deal on their linguistic abilities." Layla was quiet for a moment, studying his face. "Mr. Sterling, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "What happens if this deal falls through? I mean specifically, what are the real consequences?" Marcus looked at her in surprise. In 3 days of intensive tutoring, they'd discussed Arabic grammar, Lebanese culture, and proper business etiquette, but never the actual stakes of his deadline. Sterling Tech loses the opportunity to expand into Middle Eastern and North African markets, he said slowly. We lose first-mover advantage in cloud computing across an entire region. Our competitors gain access to resources and partnerships that could put us at a significant disadvantage. And personally, Marcus hadn't really considered the personal implications beyond professional embarrassment. I suppose I'd have to explain to the board why I couldn't close the biggest deal in company history. My reputation would take a hit. Shareholder confidence might decrease. But the company would survive? Yes, the company would survive. And you would survive? Marcus stared at her. Of course I would survive. What kind of question is that? The kind of question that helps determine why you're putting this much pressure on yourself to master Arabic in 13 days. Layla leaned forward. Mr. Sterling, you've built a multi-billion-dollar company. You've successfully navigated economic downturns, technological disruptions, and competitive challenges. One failed deal, even a big one, doesn't erase that track record. It's not about erasing my track record. It's about... Marcus paused, trying to articulate something he'd never really examined. It's about not failing. I don't fail, Ms. Hassan. I find solutions. I overcome obstacles. I make things work. Everyone fails sometimes. Not me. The simplicity of his response hung in the air between them. Layla studied his face with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read, surprise maybe, or concern. Mr. Sterling, she said carefully, what happens if you're not perfect? I don't understand the question. What happens if you mispronounce a word during your meeting with Sheikh al-Rashid? What happens if you have to ask him to repeat something? What happens if you're human instead of infallible? Marcus felt an uncomfortable twist in his chest. Nothing happens, because that won't occur, because you don't fail, because I don't fail. Layla was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was gentler than he'd heard before. Mr. Sterling, Sheikh al-Rashid isn't expecting perfection. He's expecting respect, effort, and genuine interest in his culture. You've already demonstrated all three by learning basic Arabic in 3 days. Maybe the goal isn't to be perfect. Maybe the goal is to be authentic. Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with an urgent text from James Chen. Emergency board meeting. Morrison account crisis. Need you here immediately. Marcus looked at the message, then at Layla, then at the Arabic vocabulary scattered across the conference table. I have to deal with this, he said, standing. Mr. Sterling, we agreed. I know what we agreed, but I can't let the company implode while I'm learning to conjugate Arabic verbs. The company isn't going to implode because of one account crisis. You don't understand. Morrison Industries represents 15% of our annual revenue. If they walk, then James Chen and your very capable executive team will handle it, Layla interrupted. That's what you pay them to do. Marcus stared at her. In 4 years, no one had ever suggested that Marcus Sterling shouldn't personally handle a major crisis. Ms. Hassan, with respect, you don't understand the complexities of running a Fortune 500 company. And you don't understand the complexities of learning Arabic while maintaining the delusion that you can control every variable in your life. The words hit harder than Marcus expected. Excuse me? Layla stood up, gathering her materials with sharp, efficient movements. You want to master Arabic in 13 days because you can't accept that some things can't be conquered through sheer willpower and unlimited resources. You want to handle every company crisis personally because you can't trust other people to be competent without your direct supervision. You want to be perfect because you're terrified of discovering what happens if you're not. That's exactly what this is. Layla shouldered her bag. Mr. Sterling, you hired me to teach you Arabic, but you can't learn Arabic while simultaneously running a company, managing crises, and trying to control every detail of your professional life. You have to choose. Choose what? Choose whether you want to succeed at this Arabic challenge or whether you want to maintain the illusion that Marcus Sterling is indispensable to every aspect of Sterling Tech's operations. She walked toward the door, then paused. When you decide what's actually important, call me. Until then, you're wasting both our time. After she left, Marcus stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by Arabic vocabulary cards and the lingering scent of Lebanese coffee. His phone buzzed again. James, Rebecca, 2 department heads, and a text from his mother reminding him about Christmas dinner. For 32 years, Marcus Sterling had successfully managed every aspect of his life through careful planning, relentless work, and absolute control. He had built an empire by refusing to delegate important decisions, and never accepting that anything was impossible with enough effort and resources. And now, for the first time in his adult life, he was facing a challenge that couldn't be solved through traditional Marcus Sterling methods. Learning Arabic required vulnerability, patience, and acceptance that he might fail despite his best efforts. It required him to be human instead of superhuman. Marcus looked at his phone, at the urgent messages demanding his immediate attention, then at the Arabic phrase Layla had written on the whiteboard, "Success requires surrender to the process." For the first time in his career, Marcus Sterling turned off his phone and walked back to his office to practice Arabic vocabulary instead of handling a company crisis. It felt like jumping off a cliff without a safety net. It felt absolutely terrifying. It felt like the most important decision he'd made in years. Outside his office, Rebecca watched in amazement as Marcus Sterling spent the afternoon conjugating Arabic verbs while Sterling Tech's executive team handled the Morrison crisis without him. The company, as it turned out, was perfectly capable of functioning without Marcus Sterling's personal involvement in every decision. A revelation that was almost as shocking as successfully pronouncing Sharaka Tijariya without stumbling over the syllables. December 15th arrived in Seattle with the kind of crisp winter morning that made the city look like a postcard. Marcus Sterling stood at his office window, watching the sunrise paint the Olympic mountains in shades of rose and gold, and realized he felt calmer than he had in weeks. 12 days of intensive Arabic instruction had transformed more than just his vocabulary. Somewhere between learning to roll his R's properly and discovering that Lebanese hospitality was a genuine cultural value rather than a business strategy, Marcus had found something he didn't know he'd been missing: the ability to be imperfect and still valuable. His phone buzzed with a text from Layla. "Break a leg today. Remember, respect, effort, authenticity. The rest will follow." Oui. At 10 a.m., Sheikh Ahmed Al-Rashid would arrive at Sterling Tech for the meeting that would determine whether the past 2 weeks had been an incredible success or an expensive failure. Marcus could now conduct basic business conversations in Arabic, understand cultural nuances, and navigate formal greetings with confidence. Whether that would be enough remained to be seen. "Mr. Sterling?" Rebecca knocked on his door. Sheikh Al-Rashid's car just pulled up to the building. Marcus straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and walked to the elevator. 12 days ago, this moment had felt like impending doom. Today, it felt like an opportunity to demonstrate something meaningful. The lobby of Sterling Tech had been transformed for the occasion. Arabic coffee service was set up on elegant tables. Lebanese pastries from Mr. Khalil's bakery were arranged on silver platters, and fresh flowers in the colors of the Lebanese flag created a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Sheikh Ahmed Al-Rashid emerged from a black Mercedes, flanked by 2 associates. He was exactly as Marcus had imagined: tall, distinguished, with the kind of presence that commanded attention without effort. His perfectly tailored suit and confident bearing spoke of old money and older traditions. "Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Al-Rashid," Marcus said, extending his hand and offering the formal Arabic greeting. Ahlan wa sahlan fi Seattle. Welcome to Seattle. The Sheikh's eyebrows rose slightly, clearly surprised to be greeted in Arabic. Wa alaykum as-salam, Mr. Sterling. Shukran lak. Your Arabic is unexpected. I have been studying your language and culture in preparation for our meeting. Marcus replied in Arabic, his pronunciation careful but confident. I wanted to show proper respect for this partnership. Indeed, Sheikh al-Rashid smiled, the formal politeness warming into genuine interest. Your effort is appreciated. Shall we proceed in Arabic then? If it pleases you, yes. They moved to the conference room, where Marcus had arranged for traditional Arabic coffee service and removed all the technological distractions that usually dominated his business meetings. The focus today would be on relationship, respect, and mutual understanding. Tell me about Sterling Tech, Sheikh al-Rashid said in Arabic, settling into his chair with the relaxed confidence of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. Marcus had practiced this moment dozens of times with Layla, but the reality still made his heart race. Sterling Tech specializes in cloud computing technology that helps businesses manage data more efficiently and securely, he began in Arabic. Our innovation allows companies to scale their operations while reducing costs and improving performance. The Arabic flowed more smoothly than he'd expected, though he could hear the slight American accent in his pronunciation. Sheikh al-Rashid listened attentively, occasionally nodding or asking clarification questions that pushed Marcus to use vocabulary he'd learned just days before. And why do you wish to partner with the al-Rashid group? The Sheikh asked. Because technology without cultural understanding is meaningless, Marcus replied, remembering Layla's lessons about Arab values. Your family has built businesses across the Middle East and North Africa through relationships, trust, and commitment to community. Sterling Tech has technological innovation, but we need partners who understand how to build lasting value in your region. You speak of relationships and trust, Sheikh al-Rashid observed. These are not typically American business priorities. Marcus paused, considering his response carefully. 2 weeks ago, he would have launched into a presentation about market penetration and profit maximization. Today, something different emerged. 2 weeks ago, I would have agreed with you, he said in Arabic. But learning your language has taught me that business is about people, not just profits. I cannot claim to understand your culture completely, but I have learned to appreciate what I was missing. For the next hour, they discussed technical specifications, market projections, and integration timelines, all in Arabic. Marcus stumbled occasionally, had to ask for clarification twice, and once completely forgot the word for infrastructure and had to describe it instead. Sheikh al-Rashid was patient with each mistake, gently correcting pronunciations and offering alternative phrases when Marcus struggled. Rather than seeing the linguistic imperfections as weakness, the Sheikh seemed to appreciate the effort and authenticity. Mr. Sterling, Sheikh al-Rashid said during a break in the conversation, may I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you choose to learn Arabic for this meeting? Surely a translator would have been simpler. Marcus had anticipated this question, but the answer felt more complex than he'd expected. Initially, because you requested it, and I wanted to close this deal, he said honestly. But in the process, I discovered something I didn't know I was missing, which is humility, connection, the understanding that some things are more important than efficiency or control. Marcus paused, and I learned from a very wise teacher that respect must be demonstrated, not just claimed. This teacher, they are Arabic, Lebanese-American, a young woman who taught me that culture and language cannot be separated from business, and that authenticity matters more than perfection. Sheikh al-Rashid smiled. She sounds like a woman of wisdom. I would like to meet her. Marcus felt a moment of panic. Layla wasn't here. She'd insisted that today's meeting should be his alone, that he needed to demonstrate his learning without her support. But before he could respond, the conference room door opened and James Chen entered with an apologetic expression. "Mr. Sterling, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here who says she has materials you requested for the meeting." Behind James stood Layla, carrying a leather portfolio and looking professional in a navy suit Marcus had never seen before. She looked nervous but determined. "Sheikh al-Rashid," Marcus said in Arabic, "I would like you to meet Layla Hassan, my Arabic teacher and cultural consultant." Layla stepped forward and offered the traditional Arabic greeting. "Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh al-Rashid. It is an honor to meet you." "Wa alaikum assalam, Miss Hassan. The honor is mine." The Sheikh studied her with interest. "Hassan, this is a Lebanese name." "Yes, sir. My family immigrated from Beirut 25 years ago." "And you taught Mr. Sterling Arabic in 2 weeks?" Layla glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "I taught him vocabulary and pronunciation," she said carefully. "But Mr. Sterling learned respect and cultural appreciation on his own that cannot be taught, only discovered." Sheikh al-Rashid gestured for Layla to join them at the conference table. "Please sit. I'm curious about your perspective on this proposed partnership." For the next 30 minutes, Layla provided cultural context for the business discussions, explaining Lebanese customs, translating nuanced Arabic phrases, and offering insights that Marcus had gained through his crash course in Middle Eastern culture. Her presence transformed the meeting from a formal business negotiation into something more like a cultural exchange. "Miss Hassan," Sheikh al-Rashid said as the meeting wound down, "your guidance has clearly been invaluable. Mr. Sterling's Arabic is impressive for such a short study period, but more importantly, his understanding of Arab business culture is genuine." "He was a dedicated student," Layla replied, "and willing to step outside his comfort zone in ways that surprised me." Sheikh al-Rashid looked between Marcus and Layla with the expression of someone who understood more than was being explicitly stated. "I believe this partnership will be successful," he said finally. "Sterling Tech has demonstrated the kind of respect and cultural understanding that the Al-Rashid Group values in long-term business relationships." Marcus felt a surge of relief and triumph that was immediately followed by something unexpected: gratitude, not for closing the deal, but for the journey that had brought him to this moment. "Shukran ktir," he said to Sheikh al-Rashid. "Thank you very much. I look forward to a long and mutually beneficial partnership." "As do I. And Mr. Sterling?" The Sheikh smiled. "Your Arabic teacher deserves a significant bonus." After Sheikh al-Rashid and his associates departed, Marcus and Layla stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by the remnants of Arabic coffee service and the lingering scent of cardamom. "We did it," Marcus said, switching back to English for the first time in hours. "The deal is approved. $5 billion, full partnership agreement, expansion into 14 countries. "You did it," Layla corrected. "I just taught you vocabulary." "You taught me a lot more than vocabulary." Marcus walked to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline that had witnessed his transformation over the past 2 weeks. "You taught me that perfection isn't the only path to success. That authenticity can be more powerful than control, that some things are worth the risk of failure." Layla gathered her materials, professional composure intact despite the significance of what they'd just accomplished. "I should go. You probably have board meetings and press releases to prepare." "Layla, wait." Marcus turned from the window. "I have a proposition for you." She paused, portfolio in hand. "Another Arabic student?" "A job. Here at Sterling Tech, Director of International Cultural Relations, 6-figure salary, full benefits, and the opportunity to help us navigate business relationships across the Middle East and North Africa." Layla stared at him. "Mr. Sterling," Marcus, "and before you say anything, this isn't charity or gratitude. This is business. You have skills we need, experience we lack, and cultural understanding that could be invaluable as we expand internationally. Plus, you're the only person I've ever met who's not afraid to tell me when I'm being unreasonable." Layla set down her portfolio, clearly struggling with the unexpected offer. I don't have experience in corporate consulting. You just successfully guided a $5 billion international partnership negotiation. I'd say your experience is quite relevant. For a moment they stood in silence, the weight of possibility hanging between them. Can I think about it? Layla asked finally. Of course, but Layla... Marcus smiled, the expression genuine and warm rather than his usual polished corporate version. Whatever you decide, thank you. For the Arabic lessons, for the cultural education, for showing me that there are more ways to succeed than I ever imagined. As Layla left Sterling Tech Tower that afternoon, she carried with her not just a job offer that could transform her financial situation, but the knowledge that sometimes the most unlikely connections lead to the most meaningful possibilities. Marcus spent the rest of the day fielding congratulatory calls from board members, approving press releases about the Al Rashid partnership, and reviewing expansion plans that would establish Sterling Tech as a major player in Middle Eastern markets. But the moment he remembered most clearly was Sheikh Al Rashid's parting comment. Mr. Sterling, in our culture, we believe that the best partnerships begin with mutual respect and understanding. You have demonstrated both. I look forward to seeing what else you might discover. That evening, Marcus sat in his penthouse apartment with a cup of Arabic coffee and a Lebanese pastry from Mr. Khalil's Market, practicing his pronunciation of Shukran Ktir and thinking about the woman who had taught him that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most unexpected teachers. 2 weeks earlier, Marcus Sterling had been a man who controlled every variable, managed every detail, and never accepted that anything was impossible with sufficient resources and determination. Tonight, he was a man who spoke basic Arabic, appreciated Lebanese hospitality, and had learned that vulnerability might be the most powerful business skill of all. Tomorrow, Sterling Tech would begin the largest international expansion in company history. But tonight, Marcus Sterling was simply grateful for the journey that had brought him here, and curious about where it might lead next. His phone buzzed with a text from Layla. Thought about your job offer. My answer is yes, but I have one condition: no more 16-hour workdays. Some things are more important than efficiency. Marcus smiled and typed back, agreed. Welcome to Sterling Tech, Director Hassan. I look forward to learning what else you might teach us. Outside his windows, Seattle glittered under a clear winter sky, and Marcus Sterling went to sleep for the first time in years without checking his email, reviewing quarterly projections, or planning tomorrow's meetings. Some things he had learned were indeed more important than efficiency, and some partnerships were worth more than any deal he could have imagined. So did you enjoy Marcus and Layla's story? If you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment which part touched you most. Was it when Marcus first tried to order coffee in Arabic, the cultural immersion in Little Lebanon, or that final business meeting that changed everything? Tell me where you're watching from and what you thought about this cross-cultural love story. Leave suggestions for upcoming videos. Maybe you want to see more stories about unexpected romances, cultural differences bringing people together, or billionaires learning that money can't buy everything. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.